Hello and welcome to Kushti TV, the straight talking YouTube channel where my specialist subjects are boxing and golf, and I talk all other stuff of interest. Now, please remember to click and subscribe. I'll keep the content coming and you keep on feeding me back and telling others. So click and subscribe and tell more. Thank you. Today's topic is golf. Now, you've got to put your seatbelt in, sit back, relax, enjoy this. Stay seated, please. Don't allow yourself to go, because today's person of interest is an absolutely amazing story. It's somewhat sad and it's somewhat genius. It's not completely sad, but there's certainly a sad side to it. But this golfer in question today, trust me, could hit the golf ball, no dispute, better than Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. He is deemed as the best ball striker ever. The previously best ball striker ever was deemed as the brilliant Ben Hogan. But there's a scrapbook lying around somewhere where Ben Hogan says, yes, I admit that the character I'm going to bring into focus was better than himself. Born in Ontario in 1929, yes, he's born as Moe Norman. He will become better known as Moe Norman, Pipeline Moe, they would call him. Yes, right, little Moe had met an accident at the age of just 5. He was sledding in his native and he was run over by a car. And this left Moe Norman with some difficulties in the way of learning people skills. Somebody that knew him well actually said, had the film Rain Man been out some 20-30 years prior, Moe Norman would have been diagnosed as having autism. Yeah, okay, so a small lad, his dad plays the bigger men football and baseball sports, and he used to get a little bit picked on by his family. He had taken to golf. His dad deemed it as a wussy sport, but it didn't deter him too much. He kept going, and it wasn't necessarily that good to start with. But like a lot of people with autism, they find some genius areas in their life, yeah? And whilst it wasn't a gift, he found a way, okay? So he was actually left-handed, yeah? And he used to make a club out of a tree branch and play left-handed, and then old bits of stick. And he'd done some caddying at his local golf course, and he bought a 5-iron off a member who was right-handed. So this kid was so desperate to play golf, he was left-handed, he buys a right-handed golf club. Yeah, and with no practice ranges and things in those days, he continues to chop areas of grass down so he can tee the ball, you know, because the grass is long, he can tee it down, and he then goes up the other end and chops some grass down where he can get it landing. And the young Moe, yeah, that's the way he started, and ill intent on not losing his balls, he worked on his accuracy. As a little 12-year-old, I find it quite funny that he knocked 11 neighbours' windows out, but he didn't knock them out and run in hide. He used to knock them out and go, bullseye, I've got it. So he actually tried to knock them out. So you can see there's a little bit something going on here with Moe to the norm, because we normally wouldn't try to knock the window out, but as a 12-year-old he thought it was a great shot, and it probably took him 11 windows later to discover that this is maybe not the thing to be doing. So he didn't break 100 until he was 16 years of age, so he's not necessarily a good golfer at this stage. But he would practice so hard, he would, his job was picking up the bowling alley, the pins, I suppose before the operated mechanical machines. So he would go and do this to make his few pennies, bless him, and to play the game he loved. So bear in mind, he wasn't hugely gifted to start. He found a way. age 16 he broke 100. But by the time he was aged 19, now we've got to listen to this one. By the time he was aged 19, he had just 7 golf clubs. Yeah, just 7 golf clubs did Norman. And you've got to bear in mind he's gone to one of Canada's top best events. And this is a lad that can't look you in the face, even to the day, even later on, he couldn't look you in the eye, couldn't make eye contact. He found it very, very difficult. And under nerves, he would repeat things. You know, good shot, Mo, good shot, Mo, or well done, well done. He would say everything twice. And this bloke goes to play with a torn golf bag with 7 clubs in Canada's, one of their biggest. It's almost like it's not the National Open, which he does win, but it's a big event just beyond it. And he shoots 67 with 7 clubs. Bear in mind, he's had 19. At 16, he just broke 100. So this is how he's ingrained his way of playing golf. He's now brilliant. And he ran away from the golf course when he shot 67 in fear of collecting the winner's prize and speech in front of people. So we're starting to probably get a picture now of the difficulties he has in life. He has his genius side, but the difficulties. He was also, a bit like the character in Rain Man, he was a brilliant cribbage player. He used to go and drink cans of full fat or full sugar Coke, and you know, he wouldn't be very kind to his teeth. He'd just do them, play with his friend, one of his friends' cribbage, and he was brilliant. He had a memory for numbers, so much so that if he played your course in London, England, or Scotland, or example, he remembered that your 13th hole was 343 yards, or 511 yards, or 15th. He remembered, had a knowledge, a memory for yardages on every hole he ever played in every course, and every shot that meant something, he would remember. You know, if he had to hit a shot on the green in 2-putt, he could remember every shot he ever hit in his career of any meaningful shot. Yeah, so he's now become the national champion, and they actually threatened him with his lack of money. He's now finishing deliberately second on occasions to win a prize for somebody who wants to purchase it, and the first prize, second prize, third prize. So he's finishing in order if he can to get the money to go to the next event as an amateur. And they actually threatened that he was going to deem him as a professional. He's now twice the national amateur champion of Canada, and he's now in fear of losing his amateur status. So he turns professional because he thinks they might nick his 2 titles for him that he's won. So he turns professional, and he wins 55 times on the Canadian tour. 55 times. I mean, the Canadian tour is a hell of a tour. It's not the US tour, but it's only that much beyond it. It's, you know, it's leaning against America, of course. It's a hell of a tour. He wins the Canadian Open with US tour players in it on numerous occasions, and this man then gets his chance. He goes to America. Now this is the bit I feel sad. He's not recognised with autism or a learning disability or a people skill disability. I'm struggling to put the right words, but I think you got the picture. He's not recognised with that, and he goes in America and he finishes example 36, picks up some money, finishes 12th, and example, and then he finishes 4th. So he's knocking on the door. And people are so pleased for him. It's now only a question of time. Not deemed as the best putter, but he's broke 60 on numerous occasions, so he can do a bit of putting as well. He's now going to go right to the very top of the game. It's just a matter of time. And this is the real sad bit. His dress sense, his trousers could be this much up from his ankles. Really bright colours, long sleeves when other people were just barely wearing t-shirts. And 4 top US tour players corner him in the locker room and bully him. Really grind away at his appearance, his mannerisms, what he does. And the poor Moe Norman, he left America back for Canada and would refuse. He just said, I'm not going back to that tour again. And it took several years, I think maybe even decades, before he revealed actually what happened. So that's the sad thing. One of the greatest players ever we had seen going through, stopped from breaking barriers. He had such a funny side to Moe Norman. He would, as I said earlier, he loves drinking Coke. He would, very often in tournaments as well, very often he played to the crowd. He had the mentality of a kid. In fact, he was happier around kids. If he saw a kid, he would just straight away throw them a ball and they start throwing it back. That was his sort of mentality. He wouldn't make eye contact with you apparently unless he knew you really well. So the mentality, very often in tournaments, tee off from a Coca-Cola bottle, just sweep it down the middle. That's, you know, he didn't have any fear of that. He just hit good shots, and the professionals and the crowd loved it, but the authorities were looking at him with a dim view, not in an understanding way. He was also one of the fastest players ever. He once actually putted through a bloke's arm and his foot as he went down to mark his ball. He just putted through quickly. And one of his things he used to love, his childish side of him, he would lay on the fairway pretending to sleep whilst somebody would be taking the yardage, checking the wind, because Mo just never done that. He just went straight down and hit it. He had this baseball type in the palm grip, big wide stance, hovered the club, arms outstretched, one plain swing, he developed it. Shoulder length backswing, and away he went. And we then found the most accurate golfer ever. So accurate, some of the stories, he played an exhibition match with the brilliant Sam Snead, slamming Sammy, and it was a 4-iron layup. Yeah, so he lays up this 4-iron, Snead, and Norman pulls his driver out. And this is 240 yards to clear the water, impossible in those days to do it with the equipment. And he looks straight down at Snead and he says, he just takes his eye off the ball. He says, I'm not going in the water, I'm going over the bridge. And he strikes his drive over the bridge of 3 yards wide and onto the par 4 green. So this is the accuracy you play with. He had the same golf tee for 7 years. He would just sweep it off the top. And he wouldn't take huge but divots, deep divots. He would call them bacon strips, not pork chops. He'd just clip it off the top. And it's just an amazing character. As I say, he shot 59. He once played in the Canadian Open and he was winning by, he had 4 shots to get up and down on the green, and so he deliberately putted into the bunker and he said, too easy Mo, too easy Mo, too easy Mo, repeated himself, knocked it in the trap, splashed out, put the putt in, Canadian Open winner. So this was the talent this man had, and how sad that the US Tour and the world never see him flourish into the world superstar that he would have been. I'm just thinking of a few other stories. So when he was a kid, he lived next to a chicken slaughter yard, an abattoir, and some bloke says to him he's practiced so hard and his hands would bleed, and he always wore quite bright coloured trousers, and he would just rub away the blood on his trousers. And the bloke says to him, I know you're the kid that works in the slaughter yard. And he went, no, he wouldn't even look, no. He said, yeah, I see you every day, no. And the bloke thought he worked in a slaughter yard where he practiced so hard. So he didn't, so it didn't come naturally, he found a way. And he used to play people $10 for hitting flag sticks, to see the one who could hit the most flag sticks in a round. You know, and he was known to hit 2 or 3 flag sticks in a round and pick up some dollars that way. He played 36-hole events, and he's very often known to be playing from the same divots, or on top of the same divot that he went in earlier. Yeah, so that was the story of the brilliant Moe Norman. Before I sign off, I think there must be some more funny stories. Oh yeah, Mo used to carry his own tour bag. We'd never have a caddy. He used to sleep in his own car. And as I say, you're getting the gist of the character. And late in his life, Titleist said to him, we want to give you $5,000 per month for the rest of your life. And he said, what do I have to do for this? Always struggle for money, Mo. And what do I need to do, sir? And they said, you do nothing. We are inducting you into the Hall of Fame. And the golfing authorities had recognised the trick that was missed for the brilliant pipeline Moe Norman. Yes, any shot, any height. Somebody once asked him, when was the last time he went to shot? He said 30 years ago. 30 years ago, he once hit 1,541 drivers on a clinic, because he'd hit them in seconds if he'd banged them, and he wouldn't have to look for tees, because he's the same tee for 7 years, he'd barely go anywhere. And apparently, out the 1,541 drives, they had finished within a 30-yard radius. That's from the worst shot to the best one. You can imagine that? In a 30-yard radius, and they all clocked up 230, 40 yards in those days, at least, worst distance. And yeah, people like Nick Faldo had been witnessed watching Moe Norman and just shaking his head in disbelief, just completely in awe of him. Tiger Woods actually said, some of us strike the ball well most of the time. He said there was only one golfer out there that struck the ball well all of the time, and that was the brilliant Moe Norman. And Paul Wessinger said he just had to leave a practice ground once. He said, because if I stay here too long, I won't have any art to play. He just hadn't seen anything like it. He literally could stand at 150 yard signs and hit it 3 or 4 out of 10, and when he missed it by this much. He said Moe once said himself, there's straight golfers in the world, yeah. He said, but they get it fade or draw. He said Moe Norman gets it Moe Norman's way, straight. He says 18 greens, 18 fairways, and somebody once said, is that not boring? He said, oh, that's great fun. He said all the trees and the water and the bunkers are only there for nice scenery. He says, I never see them things. It's like driving a car. If you look at the path you might drive on it, he said, I'll just look straight ahead. That's where my ball's going. Yes. So that was the story. Moe died in 2004. I actually see him. I didn't really meet him and embrace him, but I saw him in person. I was so enthralled to see him, and at the Open Championship in 2003, he was there with Britain's Sandy Lowell, helping him on a thing called Natural Golf. And so yeah, Moe did get his recognition late on. I find it quite sad that they just didn't recognise him a bit earlier, because he wouldn't have been, some of you may not have heard of him, but there's some YouTube stuff out there on him and he's absolutely brilliant. Take a look at him. So this is my tribute to the brilliant Moe Norman from Ontario, Canada, who died 2004, age 74, Hall of Famer. Well, thanks for the ball striking, Moe, and hope you've enjoyed it. Remember, click and subscribe, tune in for some more. Straight down the middle. Good on you, Moe.